Hey everyone, this is Chris. Welcome back to the channel. So we're talking about 3M. The lawsuits are flying around in this company. It is a dividend stock, and generally speaking, you want to buy low, sell high. Although this one keeps going lower, so is it one you want to get in? Well, let's take a look at some numbers and take a look at the news, and you ultimately got to make a decision. But I'll give you my opinion on this stuff as well. Okay, so first is take a look at this. This is the article that just came out. Basically, if you don't know, 3M makes masks, which is certainly a moneymaker during the pandemic. They make a lot of Post-it notes and stuff like that, and they evidently also make earplugs. They sold these to the military. The earplugs didn't quite work as, I guess, reported, or what's the right word to say? Didn't quite work as planned, or didn't quite work as what they told the military. And they're facing 230,000 lawsuits because soldiers experience ear damage. And this is actually a quite serious lawsuit. Estimates is that it could cost the company anywhere from 1 billion to 10 billion. That's this estimates. I mean, who knows how much this stuff could cost, right? Because as medical claims, rise and everyone starts filing for, money, it could be anything. So essentially what they tried to do was like have one of their companies, or, because these companies are big, have one of their branches of their company declare bankruptcy and then try to discharge the loan that way. It didn't work. They've also talked about splitting the company up to try to shield, the rest of the company from that. We'll see. In some, this is a mess, and they're dealing with, massive lawsuit here. One of the things that also is happening is, you take a look at Max. If you invest in this company back in the 90s, you'd be doing really quite well. You'd be pretty happy about it. However, in the past 5 years, it hasn't been performing that great. It's down, 36%, and looks weak. However, you always want to buy low, sell high. You guys know that. Because, this is a P ratio of 18 and a dividend of 4, but you do have that lawsuit weighing on you, and we don't know how to price that in. As I said, it could be $1 billion to $10 billion in cost. When you take a look at this here, this will give you sort of a general idea of like how their financial situation is. And I was looking at, there's a couple things I was looking at. So one is I was looking at this here, and this gives you a real good picture. Actually, a couple things here. Let me find. Yeah, here it is. So this gives you a good picture of what we're talking about financially. So remember, if we're looking at a cost of $1 to $10 billion of, if you lose this lawsuit or settlement or whatever you can do, it's going to cost you money. Your current revenue at 3M is $35 billion a year. Cost revenue is 19. Gross profits is 15. You got these other expenses at 11. But that leaves you with, earnings at 4.2 billion. Just, you can see it right there. And so like theoretically, yeah, they could pay that billion, or they could pay that 10 billion would be a lot for them. They'd have to, they only are making say 4.2 billion a year. And the other thing is too is like they could theoretically raise cash any number of ways. They could, do an offering. I'm just saying, for example, if they have to pay this 10 billion, or they could just borrow the money, or, even if the thing could cost them 10 billion, it may only be like, we'll say $1 billion a year, like for example, over 10 years. There's any number of ways that they're going to pay for it. But I just want to give you a sense of like, when we say $1 to $10 billion, look at how much money they actually make and get a sense of, is that a lot of money? I mean, yes, $1 billion is a lot of money, but is it a lot of money for this company? And you can see if they're earning 4.2 billion yearly, 10 billion would be a sizable amount of money for them. Also, you could take a look at here. Let's go down to their health here. They currently have 16 billion in debt, and then cash and short-term investments, they have about 3 billion on hand. So you're making about 4 billion a year. You got about 3 billion in cash. You got a whole bunch of assets that, yes, theoretically you could sell, but it's not really that practical when you need these things to make money, right? So you don't just sell the farm. 3M is a legitimate company, but I do think this lawsuit is serious in terms of the potential cost of it. Doesn't mean they're going to win or lose. I can't predict what the courts are going to say. Also, too, when you take a look, like say, was Wall Street thinking about this thing? It's kind of mixed, actually. You have some holds and sells. No one's really into the buy camp. And I don't know if they're pricing in the lawsuits or not. Who knows? But essentially, you're looking at between 120 to 150. But again, you're dealing with lawsuit situation. If you didn't know, if you didn't know about the lawsuit at all, and you're only looking at numbers, and this is why investing isn't easy, because if it was just about numbers, we'd all master this thing 100%, because all you do is read numbers look good, buy the stock, right? but obviously investing is about knowing what a business is doing. The reason why I mentioned numbers is because in terms of like a dividend stock in the past, and I think this could be something that has trapped a lot of people where they just saw the numbers and they thought this was a good dividend stock. I mean, look at this: dividend safety, growth, yield, consistency. Basically, they pay their dividends, right? This is what this is telling you. They pay their dividends, they regularly do it, and is relatively safe. They even have a history of doing it. They've done it for the last 63 years, right? They've been growing their dividend and paying their dividends for 63 years, which is quite a bit. But right now, everything hinges on their lawsuit. So, it's funny because this is a situation. There's a guy, his name is Howard Marks. He went to my school. I actually had a chance to meet him in LA. And he's a famed investor for investing in distressed assets. And this would be a really good example of a distressed asset. Is this a good one or not? My opinion is with any of this kind of stuff is just as long as you understand the risk and you're comfortable with the risk, right? If you like look at the risk and you're like, man, the risk is just too high, don't touch it. Um, this is the name of the game is in the stock market, you're looking for reasons not to buy a stock because ultimately you should have, let's just say you have 5 to 10 stocks and you have index funds and you have bonds and stuff or something of this nature, right? Is you're ultimately trying to pick the best choices, the best risks to rewards. And everyone, like I said, everyone has different thresholds on that. And so, yes, they pay dividend. Yes, they're profitable. But if that settlement comes out and it's like a $10 billion one and they can't quite cover it with the cash that they have because I just wanted to show you the numbers. So you have a general sense of like when they're throwing around numbers, how much it could cost them. You'll have a sense of what it is. If it only comes at a billion, then they actually could just pay for it out right now, theoretically. But I don't think they would necessarily pay the cash immediately. I don't think that those things work that way. And also, too, sometimes these kind of things take a long time. Like there's a ruling against them, and then they figure out all these different ways to delay the payment to people. But I think where this one is unusual is that it's so large. 230,000 people. We're not talking about like 100 people suing them. Like 230,000 separate cases, and there could be multiple states involved, and also you're dealing with soldiers, which certainly, they relied on these earplugs. And how can I say, like, 3M impacted people that there is a political reason for politicians to get involved with this as well. So, one of the things that this reminds me of, so for example, we talked about on this channel was Activision Blizzard. And that was an interesting one because that was essentially basically, it looks like they had bad management, but the company itself, they still had their assets of all of the properties of the video games that they had. This is a situation to where the company itself and the business model is somewhat intact. However, that whole faulty ear thing, I think, is different than the Blizzard thing, right? It doesn't necessarily fundamentally change the company in terms of they still make products, but I think the difference between this one and say the Blizzard one is the Blizzard one with bad management and sexual harassment comes over at Blizzard. It wasn't necessarily costing them money in the sense of like the scale. I just think the scale of this potential is so large. So, I guess my job in this situation is I just wanted to illustrate the costs and the benefits. I think the benefit is this is a dividend stock. They have a long history of paying the dividends. They do make a profit, but if the lawsuit comes down and it's going to be $10 billion, it's going to be a real pain for this company. If it ends up being $1 billion in that range, I think they can just absorb the cost and keep on and trucking. And so that's my thoughts on that. It depends how much it's going to be. And, yes, you knew that already, of course, we all know that, but I want to give you a more of a ballpark idea of how to think about that. And so again, I'll just go back to here so you can see it again. Where is it here? Here. This just gives you a real visual sense of like, they're earning 4.2 and, they do generate revenue of 35 billion. I mean, they generate a lot of money. And, if you were just to look at the numbers of this thing, the robots actually like this company. The robots are saying, it's funny, I was looking at this, the robots are like, this is 48% undervalued. And that's where when you invest, you can't just look at numbers. You got to know what a company is doing, and you got to know what their future is, and you got to know who the CEO and if there's any lawsuits and that kind of stuff. But yes, this is a dividend stock, but they are under a lot of pressure. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this one as well. And the question which I would ask you is, are you taking this lawsuit seriously? Do you think this would seriously hurt the company? Are we talking like bankruptcy kind of thing? Or do you feel like, oh, this lawsuit is temporary? They're going to make it past that. This is a dividend payer, and now's the time to buy the dip. So, love to hear your thoughts on this one. I do appreciate everyone watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.